Good day everyone! It's your EdUp Guru at your service. Today, I will share with you about the individual performance, commitment, and review form. Just a disclaimer, this form is not mine, so I just want to give credit to the person who developed it. Now, let's get it on! If you are new in my channel, please subscribe and hit the notification bell. Let us now start the discussion on Individual Performance Commitment and Review Form, or IPCRF. IPCRF is comprised of 4 parts, which is an Excel-based version. It should be accomplished by the teachers before submitting it to the rater. Moving on to its overview, it is composed of 11 sheets, such as Read This, Encoding Sheet, IPCRF Part 1, 2, 3, and 4 for highly proficient and proficient teachers. As regards to content per sheet, let us discuss this one by one. The first sheet is Read This, which contains the tool of course and how to use it. The next sheet is Encoding Sheet, where it is partially locked and only certain parts are unlocked for coding. This is where you can encode the ratings that you have obtained in all the classroom observation periods and the supplementary materials, TRFs, you have provided in applicable objectives. This is where you also encode your IPCRF rating for the other objectives. The third sheet is IPCRF Part 1, which automatically generates after encoding an encoding sheet. Take note, no more editing is allowed on this sheet. I have here a sample Individual Performance Commitment Review Form IPCRF encoding sheet, where I actually encoded the sample name of employee, his position, division. Rating period is actually provided on this sheet, the sample name of rater, position, and date of review. Upon doing so, I checked the second part, which is IPCRF Part 1. And amazing! All the encoded contents are already reflected on it. Next sheet is IPCRF Part 2, which contains the core behavioral competencies, where you will encode the results of the assessment of your core behavioral competencies. This sheet is partially locked, and only the spaces where you will encode the number 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 of competencies for each category of core behavioral competencies are unlocked for encoding. There are 6 categories of behavioral competencies, such as self-management, professionalism and ethics, and among others. And the Individual Performance Commitment Review Form Summary Sheet shows your IPCRF rating per objective, your average and score per objective, and your final rating for the performance cycle. Data in this sheet are automatically generated from the encoded information and ratings in the IPCRF Part 1 sheet. Only the colored cells should be edited. Lastly, IPCRF Part 4 will contain your IPCRF development plan. This sheet is completely unlocked. Use this sheet to encode your strengths and development needs and the corresponding action plan, timeline, and resources needed based on the results of your ESAT prior to the RPMS cycle. You may update your development plan based on the results of your performance review and evaluation during RPMS Phase 4. Maybe you're asking, how are you going to use Excel workbook? It's simple. First, you need to open it with the use of Microsoft Excel 2010 or later. When a prompt appears, you need to click Enable Editing, Macros, Content, and Update. Lastly, you need to read and understand all the contents of this Read This sheet, then click Begin at the bottom to start. The next step that you need to do is to encode IPCRF ratings. I have here blank samples of IPCRF encoding sheet and IPCRF summary sheet. You need to encode all required information at the uppermost portion of the sheet. Input the name of employee or ratee, division, rating period, name of rater, position of rater, and date of review. Type also the name of approving authority at the bottom of the sheet. Input all your ratings for the classroom observation periods you have been observed, and or ratings for supplementary materials, TRFs you have provided in applicable objectives. The sheet computes for the transmuted RPMS rating for quality for the classroom observable objectives based on the ratings that you encoded. If you only have one COT, supplementary material TRF, you just need to encode the ratings under COT, supplementary material TRF1. And double check if all ratings in the necessary Q column are filled in on both the encoding sheet and IPCRF Part 3. Take note of and follow the instructions found on the right side of some objectives. Ensure that final numerical and adjectival ratings reflect on the space at the bottom of the sheet. The next step is to accomplish the competencies part of the IPCRF. I have here a sample part 2, which is about core behavioral competencies. In doing it, you need to open the IPCRF Part 2 sheet to begin encoding. Then you need to input the number of competency indicators such as 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 for each of the 6 categories of core behavioral competencies that you have demonstrated during the performance cycle. Then preparing the development plans is necessary. I have here a blank sample. Now, how are we going to prepare the development plans? First, you need to open the IPCRF Part 4 sheet to begin encoding. Then, you need to encode your strengths and development needs for both the functional competencies, RPMS objectives in Part 1, and the core behavioral competencies in Part 2. Lastly, you need to input your corresponding action plan, including the learning objectives and interventions, timeline, and resources needed. Lastly, you have to submit the IPCRF Parts 1 to 4 to your rater. How are you going to do it? Of course, you need to print all 4 sheets, IPCRF Parts 1 to 4, that you have accomplished in the required number of copies. Submit this to your rater together with your RPMS portfolio. Take note, there will be a face-to-face validation of the IPCRF between the ratee and the rater.
That would be all for this video. Thank you for watching. Till next, bye!